I crossed into Michigan's Upper Peninsula somewhere past midnight with my gas gauge kissing empty and my phone shut off to save the battery. The battery thing was practical. I only had Wi-Fi anyway, no service plan, so keeping it dark made sense. That's what I told myself. Really, it just matched the rest of my situation. No plan, no money, no clue what I was doing up here except putting distance between me and Green Bay. My license was suspended. Had been for 3 months. Didn't stop me from driving because I needed to get somewhere that wasn't Wisconsin, and a bus ticket cost money I didn't have. So I drove. Kept to back roads when I could, stayed under the limit, didn't do anything stupid. Well, stupider. The duffel bag in the passenger seat had most of what I owned. Couple changes of clothes, a phone charger, some old mail I probably should have thrown out. Toothbrush. That was about it. I'd left the rest in a storage unit I'd stopped paying for 2 months back, which meant it was gone by now. Didn't matter. Wasn't anything I needed. The road up from Green Bay had been empty, just trees and darkness and the occasional truck going the other direction. I'd passed Escanaba maybe an hour ago, kept going because I didn't know where I was headed, and stopping felt like admitting I was lost. The heater in my car worked half the time. This wasn't one of those times. January in the UP, and I was breathing fog, hands numb on the wheel. Then I saw the sign. Circle K, one of those tall ones they put by the highway so you can spot it from a mile out. And below the logo, smaller, on one of those reader boards with the black plastic letters, "Now hiring, apply inside." I figured it was worth a shot. Or maybe I didn't figure anything. I just needed gas and the place was open, and I was tired enough that pulling in felt easier than thinking about what came next. The exit led me onto M35, which was empty except for some tire tracks in the slush. The Circle K sat back from the road a little, parking lot way too bright for... I checked the dashboard clock, 2:43 in the morning. They had those big overhead lights going full blast, the kind that turn everything flat and washed out. Made the whole place look fake, or new, or both. No cars in the lot, not one. That bugged me a little. I mean, it was a gas station off a state highway. Middle of the night, sure, but still. You'd expect someone, a truck, maybe, somebody getting coffee before a long haul. But the lot was just empty pavement and snowbanks and those two bright lights making everything look staged. I pulled around back instead of parking out front, partly because my car looked like hell, a 2006 Civic with a busted tail light and a dent in the rear quarter panel, and I didn't want anyone seeing it if I went inside to ask about the job, partly because if someone ran my plates I was probably screwed. The suspended license thing. So I parked behind the building where the dumpsters were, next to a snow pile taller than my roof, and killed the engine. Sat there for a second. My hands were shaking. From the cold, I figured, or from being awake too long. I'd been driving for 6 hours, and I hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon, some gas station burrito that hadn't agreed with me. I was running on nothing. I got out. The air hit me hard, that kind of cold that goes straight through your jacket and sits in your chest. I zipped my hoodie up all the way and shoved my hands in my pockets and walked around to the front. The sliding doors opened when I got close. Automatic. I stepped inside and the heat was immediate, dry and stale, with that burned coffee smell underneath. The kind of smell you get when a pot's been sitting on the burner for hours. It was everywhere. I stopped just past the doors and looked around. The place was perfect. That's the word that came to me. Not clean, though it was clean, but perfect. Like someone had just gone through and straightened everything. The shelves were faced, all the products lined up with their labels forward. The chip rack looked full, no gaps. The candy bars by the register were sorted by type. Even the coffee station looked squared away, napkins stacked, lids organized by size. It felt staged. That's the best way I can put it. The whole store felt like it was waiting for something. I walked down the first aisle, past the motor oil and windshield washer fluid. My boots squeaked on the tile. That was the only sound. No music playing, no hum from the coolers, just my footsteps and the faint buzz from the overhead lights. The register area was empty. Nobody behind the counter. I stopped in front of it and waited. Figured someone would come out if they heard the door chime. But nothing. Just the quiet and that coffee smell and the lights buzzing. There was a bell on the counter. One of those little silver ones you're supposed to tap for service. I didn't touch it. Felt rude, I guess. Or maybe I was just buying time. I wasn't sure what I was going to say if someone actually showed up. "Hey, I saw your sign. I need a job. Also, I'm probably not supposed to be driving." Didn't seem like a strong opener. I glanced at the security camera above the register. Little black dome in the ceiling, lens pointing down. I wondered if anyone was watching. Wondered if they'd already seen me pull around back and were calling the cops right now. Then I heard footsteps. Someone was coming from the back. Not in a hurry, just walking. I straightened up a little, pulled my hands out of my pockets, tried to look like I belonged there and not like someone who'd been living in his car. The door behind the counter, one of those unmarked employee doors, opened, and someone finally came out. The woman who came through the door wore a dark red Circle K polo tucked into black slacks. Her hair was pulled back tight, and she had the kind of posture that made you stand up straighter without thinking about it. She stopped behind the register and looked right at me. Not surprised, not curious, just looked at me like she'd been waiting. "Help you?" she said. "Yeah." I cleared my throat. Saw the sign outside, the hiring one. She nodded once. "Reese Patterson. I manage this location." "Eric," I said. Didn't give her the last name yet. Figured I'd see where this went first. She kept her eyes on me. They were brown, calm, totally unreadable. "You looking for overnight?" "Yeah. Nights work better for me." "Good," she said, "because that's what I've got." I waited for her to pull out an application or ask me literally anything about my work history. She didn't. Just stood there with her hands flat on the counter. "Had a guy on overnights," she said after a second. "Quit mid-shift 2 nights ago. Walked out the door around 4 in the morning and never came back. Didn't call, didn't text. Left the register open and the door unlocked." "That sucks," I said because I didn't know what else to say. "It does." She tilted her head slightly. "You have transportation?" I almost laughed. "Yeah, I've got a car." "You local?" "Passing through," I said. "But I can stick around if the work's steady." She didn't ask where I was passing through from or where I was planning to go. Didn't ask if I had a place to stay or why I was applying for a job at almost 3 in the morning. Just kept looking at me with that same flat expression. "You ever work retail?" she asked. "Couple places, gas stations mostly, 1 grocery store." All of that was true. I'd worked a Speedway in Wausau for 8 months and a Pick and Save before that. Got laid off from the Pick and Save when they cut overnight stocking. The Speedway thing ended when I had to leave town in kind of a hurry, but I didn't think she needed to know that part yet. "You good with long shifts alone?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm fine with that." She nodded slowly. Then she said, "When can you start?" That caught me off guard. I blinked. "Now." "Tonight. I mean, I can start tonight if you need me to." "I do." "Okay." I tried not to sound too eager, tried to sound normal. "I can do that. Do you need me to fill out an application or—" "We'll handle paperwork later," she said. "I need someone on the floor tonight or I have to cover it myself, and I've been here since yesterday morning." I nodded. That made sense. Sort of. "Sure, yeah, I can start now." She watched me for another few seconds, and I got the weird feeling she was deciding something. Then she reached under the counter and pulled out a laminated card. It was maybe 5 inches by 7 inches, the kind of thing you'd use for a reference guide or a cleaning checklist. She slid it across the counter toward me. "These are the overnight procedures," she said. "You follow them exactly. No exceptions." I picked up the card. It was heavier than I expected, laminated thick enough that it didn't bend. The text was printed in dark blue ink, all caps, centered on the card. It said, "Overnight procedures, Circle K. 463 door, keep unlocked until 2:07 a.m., lock at 2:07 a.m., do not unlock again for any reason. Payment, accept U.S. paper currency only, no coins, no cards after door is locked. Freezer, alarm will sound once per shift. Silence it. Do not open the freezer door. Radio, if radio turns on by itself, mute it. Do not change the station. Coffee, turn off warmer at 3:33 a.m. for exactly 1 minute. Turn it back on after." I read it twice. Then I looked up at her. "Is this serious?" "Yes." "The door thing," I said. "You want me to lock it at exactly 2:07? "Yes." "Why 2:07? "Those are the procedures," she said. No inflection, no explanation. I looked back down at the card, and no coins. Why no coins? "You follow the list, Eric. You don't need to know why." That should have been a red flag. That should have been the moment I said thanks, but no thanks, and walked back out to my car. But I didn't. Because I needed this. Because my gas tank was almost empty and my phone was dead and I had maybe $30 in my wallet and nowhere else to be. "Okay," I said. She kept watching me. "You understand? You follow these exactly." "Yeah, I got it." "I don't care what happened before you walked in here," she said. Her voice didn't change. Still calm. Still even. "I don't care where you came from or what you're running from. You follow store procedures and we won't have a problem." My stomach tightened. I didn't say anything. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small key on a white plastic tag. She set it on the counter next to the laminated card. "Office is in the back. You can keep your things there. There's a microwave and a mini fridge if you bring food. Bathrooms next to the storage room." I picked up the key. It was warm from being in her pocket. "Shift starts now," she said. "Ends at 6 a.m. I'll be back at 6 sharp to close out the register and go over paperwork." "Okay." She stepped back from the counter and grabbed a coat that was hanging on a hook near the employee door. She pulled it on and buttoned it up, not in a hurry, but not wasting time either. Then she looked at me one more time. "You have a phone?" "Yeah." "Number?" I rattled it off. She pulled her phone out, typed something, and put it back in her pocket. Didn't call me to check. Didn't text. Just saved it, I guess. "Any questions?" she asked. I had about 100. I went with, "What do I do if someone tries to come in after the door's locked?" "Tell them you're closed, even though it's a 24-hour store." "After 2:07 you're closed," she said. "They can come back in the morning. Got it?" She walked past me toward the front doors. They slid open automatically and the cold rushed in, sharp and immediate. She stopped just outside and turned back. 6 sharp, she said. "I'll be here." Then she walked off into the parking lot, and the doors slid shut behind her. I stood there for a minute, just holding the key and the laminated card. The store was completely silent again, except for the buzzing from the lights. I heard a car start somewhere outside. Hers, probably. And then the sound faded as she drove off. I looked down at the card again. Door. Keep unlocked until 2:07 a.m. Lock at 2:07 a.m. Do not unlock again for any reason. I checked the wall clock behind the register. It was 2:51. So the door thing didn't matter tonight. I'd already missed that one. Payment. Accept U.S. paper currency only. No coins. No cards after door is locked. That was weird, but not impossible. Maybe they'd had problems with the card reader or counterfeit coins. Maybe it was some corporate policy I didn't know about. The first hour was boring. That's what got me, I think. How normal it felt. I found the office and back. just a desk, a folding chair, and the mini fridge Reese mentioned. I tossed my hoodie on the chair and went back out front. The store stayed quiet. No customers, no cars on the road outside. Just me and the hum of the coolers, which I could actually hear now that I wasn't focused on Reese's voice. I restocked the coffee station, wiped down the counter, checked the register even though I hadn't rung anything up yet. The laminated card sat next to the cash drawer. I read it again, slower this time, trying to figure out what Reese's deal was. The rules were weird, sure, but I've worked for weird managers before. One guy at the Speedway made us arrange the chips by color instead of brand. Another one timed our bathroom breaks. People get particular about dumb stuff when they're in charge too long. That's what I told myself anyway. At 3:18, the door chimed and two guys walked in. Both older than me, maybe mid-40s, wearing work coats and boots caked with snow. They didn't look at me, just headed straight for the back wall where the cooler was. I stayed behind the register and watched them grab a case of Busch Light. One of them, sandy hair, stocky build, carried it up front while the other one trailed behind. They moved like people who'd been awake too long. "Pack of Marlboro Reds," the first guy said. He didn't make eye contact. "Sure." I grabbed the cigarettes from the rack and scanned them, then the beer. $32.50. He pulled out two 20s and set them on the counter. I made change and slid it back. He took the bills, left the coins. "Thanks," I said. He nodded once. The second guy, thinner, darker hair, still hadn't said anything. They turned and walked out together, the door chiming again as they left. I watched their headlights sweep across the parking lot and disappear back onto the highway. Normal. Completely normal. I pocketed the coins and went back to waiting. Around 4, another car pulled in. Big plow truck with county markings on the side. The driver came in alone, boots tracking slush across the tile I'd mopped 20 minutes earlier. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a reflective jacket over coveralls. He didn't look at me either. "Pump 3, he said. His voice was low, clipped. 40. I punched it in. He handed me two 20s, exact change, and walked out before I could say anything. The truck rumbled to life and pulled away, plow blades scraping faintly against the asphalt. I grabbed the mop again. That was the whole shift so far. 3 customers, 0 problems. I kept glancing at the laminated card, trying to make the rules fit what I was seeing. The door thing didn't matter anymore since I'd missed the 2:07 cutoff. The coffee warmer was easy. Just flip it off at 3:33 for a minute, then back on. I'd already done that one. No drama. The freezer alarm was the only rule I hadn't dealt with yet. I figured it'd be straightforward. Alarms go off all the time in stores. Usually it's a temperature sensor or a door left open. You hit the button, it stops, you go back to work. Reese made it sound like a big deal, but Reese made everything sound like a big deal. I almost had myself convinced she was just paranoid. Then the alarm went off. It was 1:40 exactly. I know because I checked the clock right after. The sound wasn't loud, just 2 short chirps from somewhere behind the back wall, high-pitched, insistent. I jumped anyway. Something about the silence before it made the noise feel bigger than it was. I walked to the back and found the panel next to the storage room door. Just a little white box with a red light blinking and a button labeled Silence. Standard setup. I'd seen the same model at the Speedway. I pressed the button once. The light stopped blinking. The chirping stopped. Easy. I turned to head back to the register and the alarm chirped again. Twice, same as before. I stopped. Looked back at the panel. The red light was blinking again, same rhythm as before. Okay, fine. Sometimes alarms do that. Residual signal or something. I reached out and hit the button again. The chirping stopped. The light went dark. And that's when I remembered the rule. Silence once. Do not silence a second time. My hand was still on the button. I stared at the panel, my brain catching up about 3 seconds too late. The rule said once. I'd hit it twice. I pulled my hand back and waited. The panel stayed dark, no chirping, no blinking light. Just the faint hum of the freezer running somewhere behind the wall. It should have felt like a relief. Problem solved, alarm off, back to work. It didn't. I stood there for probably a full minute, just watching the panel, waiting for something to happen. Nothing happened. The freezer kept humming. The light stayed off. The store was quiet again. I turned and looked at the freezer doors. Big glass panels running the length of the back wall, fogged up from the cold. Everything inside looked normal. Rows of frozen pizzas, bags of ice, packaged meals stacked neatly behind the glass. Nothing out of place. But something felt off. I walked back to the register and picked up the laminated card, read the freezer rule again. A freezer alarm will sound once per shift, silence once. Do not silence a second time. It didn't say what would happen if I did. No consequence listed, no explanation. Just the instruction, plain and simple, and I'd already ignored it. I set the card down and rubbed my face. Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe the rule was there because the alarm had a glitch. Silence it twice and it stays off. Silence it once and it keeps going. Some backwards wiring thing. That would explain why Reese made it sound important. She didn't want people messing with it all night. That made sense. Except it didn't explain why she phrased it like a warning. I kept staring at the freezer doors. They looked the same as before. Same fog, same products. But I couldn't shake the feeling I'd just done something I wasn't supposed to undo. Crossed a line I can't uncross. That's how it felt. I tried to let it go. Went back to the counter, straightened the candy bars for the 3rd time, checked my phone even though it was still dead. The clock behind me ticked forward. 1:43. 1:44. The door chimed. I looked up fast, my chest tightening before I could stop it. Someone stepped inside. The door chime sounded at 1:55. I looked up fast, chest still tight from the freezer thing, and saw a man step inside. He was maybe 50, maybe older. Hard to tell. He wore a canvas coat that looked soaked through, darker around the shoulders and collar, and no hat. That hit me first. Nobody goes out in this cold without a hat. Not up here. He moved slow, real slow. Each step looked like it took effort, like he was dragging something heavy behind him that I couldn't see. His boots didn't squeak on the tile. They just made this dull thud, one after the other, while he walked towards the cooler section. I watched him the whole time. Couldn't help it. He stopped at the drink cooler, opened the door without hesitation, and pulled out a bottle of water. Just one. Then he turned and walked back toward the register with that same dragging gait. And that's when I really saw his eyes. They were flat, completely flat, like someone had painted pupils onto glass and stuck them in his face. No reflection, no movement, just this dead stare that didn't track right. He looked at me, but not at me, you know? Like his eyes were aimed in my direction but not actually seeing anything. I felt my shoulders tense up. He stopped in front of the register and set the water bottle down. Then he reached into his coat pocket. Slowly, everything about him was slow, and pulled out a crumpled bill. A 5, I think. He smoothed it against the counter with one palm, the motion careful and deliberate, and then he reached into his pocket again and pulled out coins. Old coins. I could tell right away they weren't normal quarters or dimes. They looked tarnished, darker, with edges that seemed worn smooth. He set them down one by one next to the bill. 3 of them. Each one made a small clink against the counter. I scanned the water bottle. $1.79. Just the water? I said. He didn't answer, didn't nod, just stood there with those painted-on eyes staring past me. I looked at the crumpled 5 and the coins sitting next to it. Then I looked at the laminated card still lying near the register, the rules printed in all caps. Only U.S. paper currency. No coins or cards after door lock. The door wasn't locked. I'd missed that deadline. But the rule was still there, and something about this guy made me want to follow it anyway. "I can't take coins," I said. Kept my voice even. "Just bills." He didn't react, didn't move. Just kept standing there, and then, real slow like before, he pushed one of the coins forward with his index finger, slid it across the counter toward me maybe 2 inches. Then he stopped and waited. I stared at the coin, at him, back at the coin. "Only bills," I said again. He pushed the coin another inch. My hand was already reaching for it. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want him standing there anymore. Maybe because some part of me figured a coin still counted as payment, technically, and I could just take it and make him leave. Maybe I was just tired. I picked up the 5 and the coin, left the other 2 sitting there. The coin felt warm. That stopped me. It was cold as hell outside, and this guy's coat was soaked, but the coin in my palm felt warm. Not hot, just warm, like it had been sitting in sunlight for an hour. I held it for a second too long, feeling the heat of it, and then I dropped it near the register. It clinked against the counter and rolled a few inches before settling flat. I made change from the 5, $3.21, put the bills in his hand. He took them without looking, folded them once, and slid them into his coat pocket. Then he picked up the water bottle and turned around. He walked toward the door with that same slow, dragging gait, each step heavy and wrong, and I watched him go. The door slid open when he got close. He stepped through, and then he just kept walking across the parking lot, past the first set of pumps, and I swear to God he vanished. Not like he walked out of sight. Not like he got into a car or turned a corner. He just stopped being there. 1 second I could see his shape moving between the pumps, and the next second there was nothing. Just empty lot and darkness. The doors slid shut, no chime. I stood there staring at the glass, waiting for the sound, but it never came. The door had opened, it had closed, but the chime didn't go off. I looked down at the coin sitting near the register. It was still there. Still warm, probably. I didn't touch it again. The clock above the register read 1:58. I stayed at the counter, didn't move, didn't straighten the candy bars or check my phone or do anything, just stood there and stared at the parking lot through the windows, watching for movement that didn't come. At 2:04, the radio turned on. I heard the click first, sharp and clear, like someone had pressed a button. Then the hiss started, low and steady, coming from the speakers mounted in the ceiling near the coffee station. No music, just static, the kind that sounds almost like breathing if you listen too long. I looked at the laminated card. If the radio turns on by itself, mute it. Do not turn it off. Do not change the station. I walked over to the coffee station. The radio sat on a shelf underneath the counter, a small black unit with a digital display and a row of buttons across the front. The display showed 104.7, but the station didn't matter. The hiss kept going, unchanging, and then I heard the voice. It was faint, buried under the static, but it was there. A man's voice, flat and monotone, speaking in the same rhythm as a weather report, steady, methodical, but instead of temperatures or wind speeds, he was saying names. Patterson, Michael, Drummond, Sarah, Coleman, 18, David. I stood there listening. Couldn't help it. The names kept coming, one after another. No pause between them, and I didn't recognize any of them. The voice didn't inflect, didn't emphasize, just kept listing names in that same dead tone, and underneath it all, the hiss kept going. I pressed the mute button. The voice cut off. The hiss dropped to almost nothing, just a faint buzz in the background that I could still hear if I focused on it. The display still showed 104.7. The power light still glowed green. I stepped back from the radio. The hiss stayed quiet. Didn't get louder, didn't change. Just this barely there buzz that sat in the air and refused to leave completely. I walked back to the register and stayed there, planted my hands on the counter and kept my eyes forward, locked on the parking lot and the windows and anything that wasn't the freezer aisle. I didn't look toward the back of the store, didn't check the alarm panel, didn't go near the storage room or the office or the bathroom. I just stayed put and listened to the faint hiss coming from the coffee station and told myself the shift would end at 6. At 2:06 a.m., headlights swung into the lot. I looked up from the register. The lights came in fast, too fast, and didn't slow down the way normal cars do when they're looking for a pump. The vehicle slid sideways across 2 spots right in front of the entrance, tires skidding on slush. Beat-up SUV, Ford Explorer maybe. Older model with a dent in the driver's side door and a cracked tail light. The driver's door opened and someone got out. I couldn't see much through the glare of the headlights still pointing at the glass, but I caught the outline. Medium height, ponytail, some kind of jacket with reflective strips. She walked straight to the entrance and grabbed the door handle, pulled hard. The door didn't budge. She yanked again, harder, and I saw her face through the glass. Young, maybe mid-20s. Sharp eyes that locked on me immediately. I was already moving. I don't know why. Maybe because she looked pissed, and I didn't want to deal with that through a locked door. Maybe because the SUV was blocking the entrance and I figured she wasn't leaving until she got what she wanted. I reached the door and hit the unlock button on the side panel. The mechanism clicked and she pulled the handle again. The door slid open and she stepped inside, bringing cold air and the smell of diesel exhaust with her. I glanced at the clock behind the register. 2:07. My stomach dropped. I watched the numbers flip. The 7 blinked once and held. I locked the door immediately. Hit the button and heard the mechanism engage again. My hand stayed on the panel for a second longer than it needed to, fingers pressed against the plastic. The key was in my other hand. I squeezed it hard enough that the teeth dug into my palm. The rule said exactly 2:07. Not 2:06, not 2:08. Exactly 2:07. I'd missed it by maybe 15 seconds, 20 at most. I turned back to her and she was already walking toward the register. She wore a sheriff's deputy uniform under a winter patrol jacket, duty belt with a gun, taser, cuffs. Ponytail pulled tight enough that it looked painful. She had the kind of face that didn't waste energy on expressions. "Deputy Molly Murray," she said, not loud, just clear. "Got a call about a stranded vehicle behind the building." I didn't say anything. My brain was still stuck on the clock. "That your car?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah. You the owner?" "Yeah." She stopped at the register and looked at me. Her eyes were blue, cold blue, the kind you see on people who spend a lot of time outside in winter. "Can I see some ID?" I hesitated. Just a second. But she caught it. "ID," she repeated. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my wallet, flipped it open and handed her my driver's license without looking at it. She took it and studied the photo, then looked at me, then back at the license. "Eric Bridges," she read aloud. That wasn't my name. I mean, it was. Technically. But I'd given false names before, and this time my mouth moved faster than my brain. That's right. She held the license up to the light like she was checking for a fake. Maybe she was. "Says here you're from Wisconsin." "Yeah." "What brings you up here?" "Work," I said. Kept my voice even, confident. That was the trick. If you sounded sure, people believed you, most of the time. She handed the license back. "Work." "Yeah, got hired tonight, overnight shift." She looked around the store, took in the shelves, the coffee station, the freezer aisle in the back. Her gaze stopped there for a second longer than it should have. Then she looked back at me, Reese hire you? Yeah. When? Couple hours ago. Maybe 3. Molly's jaw tightened. Not much, just enough that I noticed. She tell you anything about this place? I shrugged, gave me the procedures, said to follow them. Her eyes flicked to the counter. She saw the laminated card sitting next to the register. I'd left it there after the last time I read it. She didn't reach for it. Not yet, but I could tell she wanted to. Your car's parked behind the dumpsters, she said. Why? Didn't want it blocking the lot. Uh-huh. She didn't believe me. I could hear it in her voice, flat, skeptical. The kind of tone cops use when they're deciding whether to push harder or let it go. She let it go. For now. Her attention drifted again, back toward the freezer aisle. She tilted her head slightly like she was listening for something. I didn't hear anything. Just the faint buzz from the muted radio at the coffee station. Then the freezer alarm chirped. Once, short and high-pitched. Same sound as before. Molly's head snapped toward it. Her hand moved to her belt, not to the gun, but close. Instinct, maybe. I stayed still. Didn't move toward the alarm panel. Didn't press the silence button. The rule said to silence it once. I'd already silenced it twice earlier. I wasn't touching it again. The red light on the panel blinked. Once. Twice. Molly started walking toward the back of the store. Hey, I said. She didn't stop. I moved around the register and cut her off before she reached the freezer aisle. Stepped right in front of her, close enough that she had to stop or run into me. It's out of order, I said. She looked at me. What is? The freezer. Alarm's been going off all night. It's broken. You shouldn't open it. Her eyes narrowed. Why not? It's out of order, I repeated. Reese said not to touch it. Molly didn't move. She just stood there, staring at me, and I realized she was reading me, watching for tells, checking whether I was lying. I wasn't lying. Not really. The rule said not to open the freezer door. That was true. She stepped around me. Not aggressive, just deliberate. Walked past me toward the alarm panel. I turned and watched her. My chest felt tight again. She stopped in front of the panel and looked at it. The red light was still blinking. She reached for the laminated card on the counter and picked it up. Read it. I saw her shoulders change, tighten. Her grip on the card shifted and her knuckles went white. Reese gave you this? She asked. Yeah. And you've been following it? I didn't answer right away. She turned and looked at me. Yeah, I said. She set the card down on the counter, carefully, like it might break. Reese has cycled through 3 overnight clerks in 2 months. I didn't know what to say to that. 3, Molly repeated. First one quit after 1 shift. Second one lasted a week. Third one left 2 nights ago in the middle of his shift. Didn't call, didn't text, just walked out and never came back. I swallowed. My throat felt dry. You know what they all had in common? She asked. I shook my head. They all followed the rules. The freezer alarm chirped again, louder this time. Not just 1 chirp, 2, 3. Rapid, like it was angry. Molly's hand went to her gun, not drawing, just resting there. I looked at the panel. The red light was blinking faster now. The chirps kept coming. 4, 5. That alarm was disconnected, Molly said. Her voice was quiet, steady, but I heard the edge in it. After an electrical fire last year, Reese had it pulled. It shouldn't be able to make any noise at all. I stared at the panel. The lights above the freezer aisle flickered. Once, twice. Then they started pulsing. Slow at first, then faster. The rhythm felt deliberate, alive. I looked at the register. At the warm coin still sitting on the counter next to the 2 others the man had left behind. The man who'd vanished in the parking lot. The man who'd paid with coins after the door was supposed to be locked. I'd taken it, the coin. I'd picked it up and then dropped it, but I'd touched it, accepted it, and I'd silenced the alarm twice. I realized it then, clear and cold and certain. I'd let the wrong kind of payment in. Molly turned away from the freezer alarm panel and looked at me. "You have security cameras in here?" I nodded. "There's one up front, above the register." "Show me the footage." I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, because I wasn't sure what we'd see. She read it on my face. "Now, Eric." I walked to the back office with Molly, following close enough that I could hear her jacket rustle with each step. The alarm kept chirping behind us. 5 rapid bursts, then a pause, then 5 more. The pattern didn't change. The office was exactly how I'd left it. My hoodie on the folding chair, the mini fridge humming in the corner, a desk with a computer monitor that I hadn't touched all night because Reese said we'd do paperwork later. I sat in the chair and moved the mouse. The screen lit up showing a login prompt. I tried admin with no password. It worked. That should have been funny. It wasn't. Molly stood behind me, close. Her hand still rested on her gun. The desktop had one folder labeled security, and I double-clicked it. A grid of camera feeds opened. 4 squares: register view, front door, pump area, backlot. "Pull up the pumps," Molly said. I clicked the pump feed to expand it full screen. The timestamp in the corner read 2:14 a.m. The image showed the forecourt with 2 rows of pumps under bright overhead lights, snow piled at the edges, tire tracks crisscrossing the slush. And between pump 3 and pump 4, the wet-coated man stood perfectly still, not walking, not moving toward a vehicle, just standing there in the middle of the frame with his arms at his sides and his head facing forward. "That's him," I said. My voice came out quieter than I meant. Molly leaned in. "How long has he been there?" "I don't know. He left maybe 10 minutes ago, walked out and just..." I stopped. He disappeared, between one step and the next. She didn't tell me that was impossible. She just watched the screen. The man didn't move, not his arms, not his coat. The fabric didn't shift in the wind and his breath didn't fog. He looked like a photograph dropped into live footage. 1 minute passed, then 2. "Rewind it," Molly said. "Show me when he walked out." I dragged the timeline back to 1:58 and hit play. The doors slid open. The man stepped through and walked across the lot with that same slow, dragging gait. He passed the first pump, then the second. Then he stopped. Right there between 3 and 4. And he didn't vanish. He just stopped walking and stood there, completely still. I kept watching, waiting for him to move again or fade or do anything. He didn't. At 2:01 on the timestamp, his head began to turn, slow, precise, like it was on a mechanism instead of a neck. His face came into view. The camera was grainy, and the distance made details hard, but I could see his eyes. They didn't reflect the overhead lights. They didn't blink. They looked flat and smooth, and the color was wrong, pale, metallic, like blank coins. Molly's breath caught. Just a small hitch, but I heard it. Behind us, something shifted. A soft sound. Pressure building against the office door like someone leaning their weight on it from the other side. I turned in the chair. The door was closed. No gap underneath. No shadow. Molly's hand moved to her gun, not drawing it, just resting her palm on the grip. The pressure increased. I could see the door bowing inward slightly at the center. The metal handle didn't move, but the frame creaked. Then from the front of the store came a sound I recognized. The lock mechanism. Click, deliberate, clean, unmistakable. I'd locked that door myself less than 10 minutes ago. I'd heard the bolt slide into place. Now I heard it slide back. Molly looked at me. "Did you..." "No." The muted radio hiss changed. Not louder, just different. The shape of it shifted from flat static to something with texture, rhythm, almost like breathing, but not quite. I stood up fast enough that the chair rolled backward and hit the wall. The hiss pulsed, once, twice, 3 times, and I understood. I don't know how. There were no words, no voice underneath the static, but the meaning was there in my head as clear as if someone had spoken it directly into my ear. It wanted the coin back, not as payment, not as money, as a promise I'd already accepted. Molly must have seen something on my face because she moved past me toward the door. "We're getting out of here." "Wait," I grabbed her arm. "The coin, it's still out there, on the counter." She pulled free and pushed the office door open. The pressure was gone. The hallway to the front was empty and lit and normal. We walked back to the register. The coin sat where I'd dropped it, small, tarnished, warm. Molly picked it up without hesitating. She turned and walked to the trash can near the coffee station and tossed it in. The coin didn't fall. It hit the plastic bag lining the can and bounced once, then landed balanced on its edge, perfectly vertical. Humming, not loud, just a faint vibration that I felt more than heard. Molly stared at it. "That's not—" The hum grew louder. I grabbed a paper towel from the dispenser and used it to pick the coin up. It was warm through the paper. Hot, almost. I wrapped it tight and shoved it in my pocket, then grabbed the laminated rule card off the counter where Molly had left it. "Come on." I pulled her back toward the register. The front door glass began to fog, slowly, from the outside, like warm breath. I checked the clock. 3:32. My chest tightened, not from fear, from recognition. What? Molly was watching me. I set the towel-wrapped coin down on the counter and focused on the coffee station. The warmer, the small red light indicating it was still on. "I have to follow the rules," I said, "the ones that are left. Eric, at 3:33 I have to turn off the coffee warmer for exactly 1 minute. That's the rule." She looked at me like I was losing it. Maybe I was. The clock hit 3:33. I walked to the coffee station and flipped the switch. The red light went dark. The store went quiet. Not normal quiet, unnatural. The hum from the freezers cut out. The buzz from the overhead lights died. Even the faint electrical hum that you don't notice until it's gone. That disappeared too. The muted radio hiss stopped completely, and the front door handle twisted. Hard. Once. Through the fogged glass, I saw a shape pressed too close, the wet-coated man. His face flattened against the pane in a way that didn't match bone. The features spread and distorted. Eyes too wide. Mouth open, but wrong. Molly drew her gun. I watched the clock. 45 seconds. 50. The handle twisted again. Slower this time. Testing. 1 minute. I flipped the switch back on. The red light returned. The hum started again. The radio hiss came back in a sudden rush of static, and outside the man jerked away from the glass. Fast, violent, like he'd been shocked. The fog cleared instantly, evaporating in seconds. The wet-coated man stumbled backward 3 steps and stopped in the middle of the lot. Then the freezer alarm started screaming, not chirping, not pulsing. A sustained, high-pitched wail that didn't stop or break or change pitch. Molly turned toward the sound with her gun still raised. "Don't," I said. "Don't silence it. Don't open the door." "Eric, what the hell is—" "I already silenced it twice. I broke that rule. I'm not breaking another one." The scream kept going. Steady. Endless. I picked up the towel-wrapped coin. It burned through the paper now, hot enough to hurt. I walked to the front door. Molly followed. The wet-coated man stood in the lot. Still. Watching. I unlocked the door but didn't open it. I crouched down and pressed the coin against the gap at the bottom. The space was maybe half an inch. Just enough. I pushed. The coin slid through. Smooth. Easy. Like it wanted to go. The alarm stopped. Instant. Total silence. Outside, the wet-coated man shuddered. His whole body jerked once, violent and wrong, then his knees buckled. He collapsed. Not like a person falling. Like something with no structure. His coat hit the pavement and spread. His body didn't stay solid. It broke apart into something dark and liquid that pooled on the asphalt and soaked in. In 5 seconds he was gone. Just a wet stain on the ground that faded as I watched. Molly holstered her gun. Her hands were shaking. I locked the door again and stepped back. We stood there in the quiet store with the coffee warmer humming and the freezers running and everything normal except for the fact that nothing was normal. Molly checked her watch. 4 hours until shift change. Yeah. You staying? I looked at the laminated card still sitting on the counter, then at the clock, then at the empty parking lot where the wet-coated man had dissolved into nothing. I don't know. Molly walked to the coffee station and poured herself a cup. Her hands were steadier now. She took a sip and grimaced. This is terrible. It's been on since before I got here. She set the cup down. I'm staying until 6. You can do what you want. I didn't argue. I just went back to the register and stood there like I'd been doing all night, waiting. Nothing else happened. No alarms, no radio voices, no customers. At 5:58, I heard a car pull up, not out front, around back. Molly heard it too. She moved toward the employee door with her hand near her belt. The back door opened and Reese walked in carrying a travel mug and her keys. She looked exactly the same as when she'd left. Pressed polo, neat bun, calm expression. She saw Molly first. Deputy Murray. Reese. Then Reese looked at me. How was the shift? I stared at her. How was the shift? Any issues I should know about? Molly laughed, short and sharp. You're serious. Reese set her mug down on the counter and pulled out her phone. I'm here to close out the register and finish onboarding paperwork. Eric, if you'll follow me to the office. I'm done, I said. She looked up. Excuse me? I'm not working another night. I'm done. Reese studied me for a long moment. No surprise, no disappointment. Just that same flat calm. I see. I pulled the office key from my pocket and set it on the counter next to the laminated card. That's it. I'm out. You understand you won't receive payment for tonight without completing the onboarding process. I don't care. Reese picked up the key and put it back in her pocket. Suit yourself. That was it. No questions. No attempt to convince me to stay. She just opened the register and started counting bills. I walked past Molly toward the front door. Eric! Molly's voice stopped me. I'll give you a ride. I turned. My car's out back. Your license is suspended. I ran your plates while you were in the office. Of course she had. I should have expected that. County line, she said, and that's as far as I go. After that, you're someone else's problem. I could have argued. Could have told her I'd take my chances with my own car and the back roads. But my hands were still shaking, and the idea of being alone in the Civic with 6 hours of dark highway ahead made my chest tight. Okay. We walked out together. The doors slid open and cold air hit me hard enough to sting. Molly's patrol car sat in the lot with the engine running and exhaust clouding white in the freezing air. I got in the passenger seat. It smelled like coffee and leather and faintly like gun oil. Molly pulled out of the lot and turned onto M35 heading south. I didn't look back at the store, didn't check the rear view, just kept my eyes forward on the empty road. After 5 minutes, Molly glanced at the mirror. Then again 30 seconds later. What? I asked, making sure we're alone. We drove in silence. The heater blasted and slowly my hand stopped shaking. The sky was still dark but starting to pale at the edges. Another hour and the sun would be up. At the county line, Molly pulled onto the shoulder and put the car in park. This is it. I opened the door. Thanks. Eric. I looked back. Don't come back up this way. Whatever you're running from, it's better than what's in that store. I know. I got out and she pulled away, taillights disappearing down the highway. Behind me, miles back in the dark, the Circle K lights were still on, still glowing, still waiting for the next person desperate enough to take the job. I turned south and started walking. My car was back there behind the dumpsters with my duffel bag and phone charger and everything else I owned. But I wasn't going back for it. Following the rules had cost me my last easy option, my car, my phone, whatever pay I might have earned. But breaking them would have cost me a lot more. I kept walking and didn't look back.